Hello people and welcome back to the RDF Tactics YouTube channel. Today's video we are going to be looking at Ruben Amorim's tactics, and funny enough he's actually rumoured to be joining Manchester United once Ralph Rangnick's time is over. But in this video we are going to be looking at the key principles of his tactics, why it was so successful, and in Football Manager we are going to try and replicate that tactic. So if you are enjoying my type of content, make sure you are subscribed, make sure you like this video and also leave a comment. That helps this channel grow a lot. And shout out to my Patreons. And now let's get started. And to start off, we can have a look at the key tactical principles. Ruben Amorim sets his Sporting side in a 3-4-3, 5-2-3 formation and has done so in 84% of Sporting's matches so far this season. Off the ball, Sporting defend with a front three, followed by a midfield two and a back five, and do extremely well occupying space when pressing. Amorim looks to use the half space when in the creating phase and will look for his side to create overloads in the half space. Sporting are a possession based side who have kept 59% of the ball in the league. They have played the fourth most passes per 90 and the second best passing accuracy with 86%, but they are a forward thinking team and do not retain the possession just for possession's sake. In the finishing phase, Sporting put a lot of crosses inside the box and have attempted the second most crosses in the league, 18 per 90. The wing backs are mainly responsible, each of them attempting over 5 crosses per 90. Sporting do look to counter-press but are not overly aggressive. If they lose the ball on the attack, one player will look to put pressure on the ball carrier, whilst the other Sporting players will look to get in position. They have the third highest PPDA with 18.15 and the second highest challenge intensity. Sporting play with a very narrow front three where the two wide forwards receive most of their passes inside the half channel or the central channel. This aids Sporting finding vertical passing options. Sporting's press is fluid that has players covering one when another leaves their position to press and will shift with play. The front three looks to pressure the opposition's back line and shuttle them into a pressing trap. Sporting also always look to stop the opposition pivot from playing. And that wraps up the key Ruben Amorim tactical principles. Now we're going to go into Football Manager, have a look at the FM22 tactic that we have created, and I guess is fairly successful. But now let's have a look in Football Manager. So just like in my previous videos, we are going to create this tactic from scratch while I walk through every tactical instructions that I've selected, basically going through the reasons why and how it can help this tactic create good chances or basically be solid in defense. So we are going to go for a 3-4-3, so we'll just look for that 3-4-3, here we are. And then we know we're going to play with wing back, so we're just going to drop these two wingers back and then we're going to play with two wingers. But looking at the average position map from real life, we are going to try and get this shape. And one way we can get this shape is moving these players in these kind of positions, which will make the tactic look funky, but we are trying to replicate certain movements and certain positions. So what we're going to do is drag the central midfielder down so he's in the defensive midfield position, and we're just going to move this wide winger into the central positions so he's in that attacking midfield area. So now this is the shape that we're going to go with, because this looks more like the shape in the average positions map, and of course we can also get certain movements that we want from the shape here. For an example, we have this wing back on attack that's going to be getting further forward and owning this right flank all by himself basically. And we can start off with the team instructions. For the mentality, we're just going to go with a positive mentality. Sporting are a possession-based side. They don't hold possession just for the sake of it, but they are a possession-based side that do like to knock the ball about. So there isn't much positional rotations and certain players will only get further forward in risk-free situations. So for us, the positive mentality will be perfect. For the attacking width, we are going to be setting this to wide. Looking at the pass maps from real life, Sporting do like to hit the ball out wider when passing. They do like to build up with sideways passes, but they also like to hit those wing backs as well. So for the attacking width, we are going to be setting this to wide. And for the passing directness, we are going to be using more direct passing. This is to get the ball moving more vertically, but also when we are in that half space area, we can hit those players in the half space basically more directly, and making sure we make use of those vertical passing options. But for the tempo, we are going to be using slightly lower, just so we don't hit those vertical balls far too often and we aren't losing possession far too often as well. And this also helps us build up at our own pace as well. And that is basically it for in possession. It's fairly basic. The attacking width is set to wide and the passing directness is set to more direct, making sure that we hit more vertical passes and looking for those vertical passing options. In transition, when the possession has been lost, we are going to be using regroup rather than counter press. When the Sporting do lose the ball higher up, one player will chase the ball carrier whilst the other Sporting players will get back into their positions. So that's the reason why we are going to be using regroup, but for the pressing intensity we are going to increase that, of course trying to get that one player chasing down the ball carrier whilst other players are going to be regrouping in their position. So when the possession has been lost, we are going to regroup. When the goalkeeper's in possession, he will look to distribute the ball to the centre backs and he will be taking short goal kicks. When the possession has been won, we do not have a direct instruction, but instead we will have those players getting further forward, basically making those counter movements for us rather than the whole team going on the counter attack. So when possession has been lost, we are going to regroup, get back into our defensive shape, but also try and get that 5 at the back that Sporting defend with. And when the goalkeeper's in possession, he will distribute to the centre backs and take short goal kicks. Lastly, for out of possession, we are going to be using a much higher line of engagement, try and get the front three to engage with the opposition's back line and shepherd them, force them out wide, and they're also going to be working hard cutting off passing lanes and also nullifying the opposition's pivot. With the defence line, we are going to go with higher just so that there isn't too much of a big gap between the lines. Now in real life, there is somewhat of a noticeable gap between the attacking unit and the midfield unit when they are pressing and stopping the opposition from playing out from the back. But in Football Manager, this caused us way too much issues, which is why we are going to be using a higher defensive line. For the defensive width, we are going to force the opposition outside, exactly what Sporting do in real life. We are going to be using tighter market. The trigger press is set to more often, prevent the short goalkeeper distribution, but for the tackling, we are going to be staying on our feet, working hard to limit the passing lanes. So for out of possession, we are using a much higher line of engagement, a higher defensive line, force the opposition on the outside, the use of tighter marking, the trigger press set to more often, prevent short goalkeeper distribution, and we are going to be staying on our feet. Now for the player roles. In goal, I just stuck with the standard goalkeeper. Not sure that really mattered too much. I did try with the sweeper keeper and I have tried with the standard goalkeeper. I just stuck with the standard goalkeeper. There's really no thinking behind that. In defense, we are going to go with the ball playing defender in the middle. And the reason is that Sebastian Cortés attempts the most long balls in the Sporting side with 6.63 per 90, which is more than the goalkeeper. So I think it's safe that we put him as the ball playing defender. Whilst the other two of the three defenders will be wide centre backs. The one on the left will be on the defensive duty, whilst the one on the right will be on the supportive duty. With the defensive midfielder, we have him very aggressive. So with the trigger press, he's set to more often, he's got marked tighter and tackle harder. With the passing directness, he also has more direct passing as well. And to get that, you actually have to knock down your passing directness, go back to that player, go back to edit, and now select more direct passing. And the reason why we have these instructions on the defensive midfielder is that João Paulino completes a lot of defensive duels per 90, and he also attempts a considerable more amount of longer passes than the rest of his teammates as well. So that is the reason why we have more direct passing and aggressive off the ball instructions. For the wing back on the right, he's the more aggressive wing back, the more forward thinking wing back, so we have him on the wing back on the attacking duty, but also take more risk. Again, he's more of a risk taker in the Sporting side, and he plays a lot more key passes and through balls than a lot of the players in the Sporting side. Whereas the wing back on the left is still forward thinking, but he's just not as aggressive as the wing back on the right, and he still puts in a lot of crosses, so we do have to put cross more often on his personal instruction. In central midfield, we've stuck with the central midfielder role on a supportive duty, and this gives us a nice staggered shape, just like in real life in Football Manager. The instructions that we are giving him is dribble more, because this central midfielder, Matthew Nunes, completes the most dribbles in this Sporting side, so of course we need to add dribble more. out on his instruction, and he's basically just going to be a supportive player in this side and be that versatile link between defense and attack. Now for the attacking three. On the left flank we do have an inverted winger, someone that's going to come inside and overload in these areas here, which is why when the team has the ball he will be sitting more narrower and he will be taking more risk as well, trying to create those chances for our side. So the aim for him is to move inside the half space to collect the ball, whilst the attacking midfielder will already be positioned in that half space, but he will be roaming around and moving into channels. So for that Pedro Gonçalves role, we are going to be using attacking midfielder. He's going to be roaming from his position, moving into channels. He's also going to be a very key goal scorer. When the opposition has the ball, he's also going to be pressing more often as well, of course putting pressure on the opponent's back line, and he needs to shift out wide when the opposition's fullback has the ball. And lastly, up top, we do have a pressing forward, but on support, he's going to be the hold-up player, but he also allows us to make some counter movements. So if he drops deep to collect the ball and holds up play, that allows the attacking midfielder to run off him, but also the inverted winger as well to make an overlapping or underlapping run off him. But you will also notice with the front three, they always like to release the third man in this tactic. So if the pressing forward has the ball and the attacking midfielder is making a run, rather than playing the ball straight to him, we can play the ball to the inverted winger, dragging the opposition's defenders out of position, and that gives space for the attacking midfielder to make his run, and then the inverted winger can release that third man making his run. But that wraps up this Ruben Amorim 3-4-3. We can now look at the results and data, my favourite part. We can look at how successful this was in all of the competitions, but also we can look at the data to see if we achieved some of the key principles that we wanted to achieve. So now let's look at the results and the data. So in the league, we finished first. We were the champions, so we did win the league 2 times in a row. We played 34 and we had a points tally of 93, very impressive. In the UEFA Champions League, we got knocked out in the first round by Borussia Dortmund, but our board expectation was just to be competitive, and as you can see with the performance, they were pretty pleased with our performance in the Champions League. We won the Taça de Portugal by winning 3-1 in the final, and in the Allianz Cup, we did win that as well, 3-1. Beating Benfica in the final. We also won the Super Cup as well. Who did we beat in the final? We beat Braga 2-1 in extra time. Looking at the league table, we won 30 of the 34 games played. We drew 3, only losing 1. That one loss came away to Benfica. Porto only lost 1 as well, and that came away to Maritimo. We scored 89 goals, which is the most, conceded 12, which is the least, with the highest goal difference and the highest points tally. So looking at the stats, we scored the most. We had the second most shots for, the fewest shots against. For the best pass completion ratio, we are on 90%, and for the most possession, we are in 5th place with 52%. So we still kept most of the ball despite our passing directness being on more direct. For the most tackles won, we are in 3rd place. Surprising to see the top 3 teams as the top 3 for tackles won, but we are in 3rd place with 553, and for the dribbles made, we are in 4th place with 430. Most clean sheets, 23, Sporting, and for the fewest conceded, 12, which is Sporting again. For the most goals, we do have Pedro Gonçalves with 22 goals in the league, Thiago Thomas on 18, For the most assists, we have Jovan Cabral with 14 and we have Nuno Santos on 11. For the most shots for, Thiago Tomas on 105. Most man of the match awards, we have Pedro, Pablo Sarabia and Pedro Porro all in that list. For the most key passes, we have Nuno Santos on the list with 128. For the best pass completion, nobody there. Most tackles won, Pedro Porro, which is very nice to know because Pedro Porro also completed a lot of defensive duels for Sporting. For the most dribbles made, Pedro Porro on 96. For the most clean sheets, it's our goalkeeper on 22, and for the fewest conceded, our goalkeeper is second on the list with 12. Apologies to anyone that's noticed my blocked nose, I am not feeling too great this morning. But now we can have a look at the data hub. Looking at the shooting, we managed more shots on target per match than average, and our average chance quality is better than most sides. We were aggressive in our shooting and high quality as well. For the passing, our passing numbers are eye-catching. It says we pass more than the average team and we pass more accurately than the average team as well. Again, more direct passes doesn't mean that we are going to be playing a lot of long balls. For the defensive efficiency, we face fewer shots per game than average and we concede fewer goals than would be expected from the number of shots that we faced. For the attacking efficiency, we manage more shots per match than average and we are more clinical than a lot of teams in the league. For the crossing, as crossing was important to the system, we cross more than the average team, but we cross less accurately than the average team as well, possibly because we are sending in a lot of crosses. For the tackling, we tackled more than the average team and we won the ball from our tackles at a worse rate than the average team, which isn't necessarily a good thing. And looking at the passes, we made most of our passes just before that halfway line. But that there wraps up the data hub. We can now look at the squad stats. Who were the top goal scorers? Who were the highest assists in the squad? So for the top goal scorer, we have Pedro Gonçalves with 31 goals in 42 starts. Absolutely incredible for an attacking midfielder, and he also has 5 assists. Thiago Tomas has 30 goals in 34 starts, which isn't bad at all for a 19-year-old. Pablo Sarabia scored 16 goals and got 19 assists. Jovan Cabral got 11 goals with 18 assists, and Pedro Porro got 10 goals from right wing back with 11 assists. And Nuno Santos was the other player with a high number of assists on 18. The top 5 performers in this team were Pablo Sarabia on 7.49 average rating, Pedro Gonçalves, no surprise, Thiago Tomas, Nuno Santos and Pedro Porro. But unfortunately, that wraps up this video, and as some of you may be able to tell, my blocked nose is absolutely killing me. But if you have enjoyed this video, make sure you are subscribed, make sure you like this video, leave a comment as well. All of that helps this channel grow. Shout out to my Patreons and yourself as well for watching this video. I'll see you guys soon, stay safe and peace out.